Morning, everybody, and welcome to Flying Rainbow Single Tai Chi Fan. Before we get going, one of the little things I picked up from Jill Heath is if you have a bamboo fan, one of the things to sometimes be concerned about is the way that they pick up moisture and can warp. Quite a few of the cheaper bamboo fans aren't lacquered or polished, and they really tend to soak up the moisture. This one from Jill is a little bit better quality, and I do recommend her fans quite highly. This is lacquered or varnished, but what she suggests is, wrapping a good strong rubber band around the shaft of the vane and the ribs to keep them in shape. I don't know about what you can see at the supermarket, but these really, really thick rubber bands that you get around broccoli at Loblaws or Zehrs, these are quite suitable as well. And you will need more than one of them because since they are being put under a certain amount of stress, they tend not to last too long. So in terms of general care for the fan. The other thing too is fan bags. I'm actually using mine these days for my phone. You can make one of these yourself, of course. This one was made by, I can't recall her name. I believe she was one of Pat Rice's students in Winchester, and quite beautiful. She really got into the fabrics and stuff for making it. I believe the lady was from New York State. Do you know who this is, CJ? I can't recall her name except for the fact that she played fiddle and we sang into the wee hours one night. But something like that is worthwhile for your fan as well to keep it from getting beaten up.
Jill also recommended that you store your fan, store it in the bathroom where you get a bit more humidity.
Huh, I hadn't heard that. Would that not contribute to warping?
No, apparently not. I mean, the warping is probably because it dries.
Ah, okay. Well, that I don't know, but when in doubt about all matters relating to fan, I would ask Jill. Now, basic fan manipulation once again, because of course some of us are new to this. You pinch, if you're holding the fan like this, with the tiger's mouth on the top vein, and remember, this is a vein, that is a vein. We're referring to these lighter pieces of bamboo as the ribs. But what you do is you pinch that top vein and then you open away from it. So when you are opening or closing the fan, you want to have the fan doing most of the work. You don't want your wrist to be getting too much of a workout. So here you just give a little shake and the fan opens. Give a little shake and the fan opens. Horizontally, give a bit of a shake and the fan opens. So good idea to practice opening and closing in every position. And in each case, you're just sort of shaking the fan and just like that. And the weight of the fan should open and close it sufficiently. The basic positions are when it's open horizontally, when it's open showing the side vertically like that, opening to the front like that, and you can see that it's not like this, but it's like that. I think you do have in one of the documents a pen and ink drawing of a bandit from the water margins with his fan like this. And what he's doing is he's using it to conceal the fact that he's got a sword in his other hand. The first fan form I ever learned was in a mantis kung fu form. And the one time the fan was open, it was like this because you were kicking. And otherwise, the fan was closed all the way through. There are arts which have fans. And in some of these arts, the fan is not opened. This is one example of a fan which is not designed to be used for martial purposes when it's opened. It actually does open, but it doesn't close, and you have to adjust it because it's stiffened paper. But the idea of this is a steel fan, so it's quite a lethal little instrument, and it's something that you could have tucked up your sleeve for use as needed. Now, let's just start doing a few exercises. Let's go back and forth. Now remember, sink dropping the tailbone and come across like this. This left hand is doing a negative circle now. I release and I press. And then release and press. Release and press. So this is the negative circle, and it's coming in towards the center line. If I go this way, from the center line out, that is a positive circle. In empty hand, the negative is associated with repulse like monkey, and the positive is associated with waving hands like clouds. When we're doing this sort of a movement, back and forth, what we have is an alternation between the two hands. So right now, my fan hand has done a negative movement, and you can see that this is giving you a butt strike like that. So coming across like this. Now, my left hand, the empty hand, is going negative, and the right hand is positive. This is where you have a chop or a block that way. The two hands are yin and yang. So release and move to one side, release and move to the other side. Your hips are nice and gentle and soft. The tailbone's moving back and forth. And the hands are alternating yin and yang. So one hand's yin and the other's yang. For the people who do old yang, this will be very familiar material. Now, let's go the circle here. Coming up. Now here, my left hand, empty hand is positive. The right hand is negative. Now my right hand is positive, but with the fan, the left hand is negative. And let's go back down. So we're playing now with the first movement of the form. I'm moving back and forth between the hips, relaxing and dropping, and moving in. Another conceptual concept, or not a conceptual concept, I'm losing my grasp on English, but Tai Chi symbol, this point here is the point of maximum yin. They're turning. This point is the point of maximum yang. So this thing is turning, and yin is becoming yang, and yang is becoming yin. This typifies all movements. The moment of maximum yin is called the Tai-yin, or the great yin, and it's where you have the least muscular engagement. The moment of maximum yang is the Tai-yang, and that's where the engagement is at its maximum. If you push it too far, you either distort or you return to the beginning. So if I'm in this position and I release, this is the Tai-yin. Now I press here. This is the Tai-yang. Now if I keep pushing, I'm going to wind up distorting my position and hurting myself. Right now I'm twisting this knee. So you get to that point of maximum, and then you release back in and press. This is what's going on with the basic fan movement. This is the key, the core of silk reeling. So I move to the Tai-yin, to the Tai-yang, to the Tai-yin, to the Tai-yang, to the Tai-yin, to the Tai-yang, to the Tai-yin, to the Tai-yang. So here, Tai-yang, Tai-yin, Tai-yang, Tai-yin, open, shift in, trap, step out. Now there's a moment here where I'm at the Tai-yin, and then I go Tai-yang, Tai-yin, Tai-yang, Tai-yin, and then I settle into the Tai-yin. Tai-yang, shifting through, adjust my feet on one side. So I'm trying to relate the method of moving the fan and coordinating it with this nice, soft, graceful quality through the legs where the quadriceps are active and the hip joints are active. And you are relaxing and then moving out, and relaxing and moving out. A big part of Tai Chi has to do with understanding how far you can go. So if I'm going forward, here's the Tai-yin, there's the Tai-yang. Now, if I go further, I've gone too far, and at this point, there's strain in my lower back, there's a bit of strain on my knee. I'm not seeing as much as my foot as I should. So this is bad, this is good. This is good. Going way back here, a few problems, I've turned too far. So you have to find that middle zone. Now, push and step and open. Close the fan. Circle. And you see how everything is centered here. Come back, step in. Open the fan, step. In the Flying Rainbow system, you have a lot of Chen. And then you've got elements of Yang style, Sun style, and Wu style. I'm just mentioning this. I know that CJ is a Sun style practitioner, so she will recognize this as the Sun style single whip. And there's the Yang style single whip. So once again, open, open. Now I'm going to turn my back to you and do the same thing. Push and step, open. Now,
Steve, do you mind turning around and doing that again more slowly? I can't see what you're doing with your hands in the middle of that.
towards you.
Yes.
Yeah, do it towards me so I can see what you're doing with your hands when you're doing that little circly thing.
Okay. Now, the
Thank you.
circle thing at the beginning, or when you're moving into the Yang style, this is large frame Yang. So when you see Grandmaster Yang Zhenduo do single whip, he's coming out of the grass sparrow's tail, and you see how the arms are extended, and then the arms come in, and they go out here, and then he goes into that. So this is the interpretation that is being used here in the fan. So I'm pushing and I'm opening, close, then here is the circle. Then open. And you see how real large frame, my torso was upright, this knee is bent, this leg is straight, although the knee is not locked. So this is large frame single whip. This is pretty much the way we do it when we're working in our Saturday morning class on the 16 form. Everything else we do is middle frame. So here, open, circle on the horizontal plane, CJ, does this answer the question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Now, let's stand like this. Okay, so it's kind of as if we're holding two bookends together or a sandwich. Okay, so we're like this. We step out, we sweep up, we sweep back, forward. Now notice I'm raising or lifting the front toe and forward. Doing this towards you. This, for the fan, is grasp sparrow's tail. Now, from here, butt end there. And then we go down. We're going to get into hopefully a bit of that stuff today. Let's take it off the top. Salute. Into the angle with the radius bone. Change the hands, spiral down again into the left hip, opening up the right hip and foot. Step in. With the left foot, clockwise trapping circle from the hip. Step out. And chop, relax, and press. Relax and sink. Press, adjust the feet. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, over the head and up. Bang. Jade Lady weaves at the shuttles. Cover. Close the fan. And again. Commencement. Deflect to the left. Spiral down into the left hip. Open the right foot and hip. Shift back. This is what I would call the devil's handshake. Trap and step out. Chop and come back. Protect the head, protect the knee. Shift your weight to the left, but adjusting in the right toe and the left heel. Step through. Now this, for some reason, is called white crane of flashes wings. 1. Stab. 2. 3, put down the left heel. 4, pivot in the right toe. 5, pivot on the left heel. Close the fan. And number 6 is stand on the right leg. And then 1, 2. Fairy Lady works the shuttles. So that's the opening sequence. Let's do it again. Salute. Up. Across. Back. Shift. Trap. Step out. Chop. And back. Circle again. Sink into the middle. Shift. White crane. 1. Now with the end vein, stab. 2. Turn. 3. 4. 5. And here you have a circling Leah. And 6. I forgot the elbow strike there, so maybe close the fan. Block. Strike. Twist step. Step. Thrust. I'll go through that twice more. I'll face you this time so you can get a sense of what's going on with my hands on the earlier part of it. And then
Could you-
we'll turn around and do it again with me facing away from you.
I hate to interrupt again, but could you possibly just the little part where where you keep saying covering? I'm not really sure what you're doing with the fan there. Could you do that in more detail?
CJ,
Yeah.
imagine that I'm wearing a velvet evening gown, low cut. And so I'm getting in touch with my feminine side, and I'm doing this to indicate that I'm interested in you.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
here. Okay, so you see, you're taking it from here, you're taking it past the point of flirtation, and you're brushing something away. And you see how right here, CJ, the elbow, this is a Lohan block. Okay, so it's right out of old-fashioned Chen and old-fashioned Kung Fu, where you're doing that sort of thing before stepping out. In old-fashioned Chen and old-fashioned Kung Fu, you've got Lohan block like that. And then from here, the natural thing is back fist. And then you're shifting through and punching. This is exactly what's going on with the fan. So here, covered. There's the Lohan block, see it? Okay, you can take, and this is typical of any North China form, and of course, Tai Chi is considered to be Northern Chinese. Get rid of the weapon, and you're left with an empty hand long fist form. So when you learn something like the fan, you also are picking up a whole set of empty hand fist skills at the same time. Now, another thing about the covering motion is right here where it reverses, there's a moment where this And this underneath, this ulterior vein are directed right toward the other person's face. So you can be going like this and then boom, boom, boom. So sort of a hidden technique. You got that block, okay? Here, stab, brush away, low on block, snap, trap, okay? One thing right after another. So towards you. Back, here, level, adjust the feet. 1, stab, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is 6. And I think instead of doing the strike, I think you'll understand that that's there. Let's just open the fan. So up and then here, cover, close the fan, trap, like that. CJ has joined us more recently, so I'm just going to mention these don't look necessarily like very powerful moves, and remember that the fan is a weak weapon. However, if you have a ruffled fan, it can be modified a little bit, as this one has been, by having it loaded. These are glass beads. It could also be sequins. And what you're doing is you're simply flicking it into the other person's eyes. A very undramatic circle in the wrist produces dramatic results at the end. Like this is traveling pretty quick by the end of it. And you're just sort of snapping this towards the other person's face or eyes. Okay, so the ruffle does allow you to weaponize this a little bit more than might otherwise be the case. Now, up to that point in the form, are there other questions like CJ's? Is there anything else you'd like me to look at there? Okay. So here we go. Now, one of the things to remember is whenever you're moving back, for example, here, if you move here, before we step forward and do that, this is the lean with back stance from Chen style, and it has inside of the possibility for an elbow hit or for a hit with the back or that. So there's all kinds of stuff in here that you don't necessarily see. They aren't necessarily shown, but they're there. Crap, step out. This could be a hit. That could be another hit. Coming back into the groin. Here, here. Okay, now we're going to be doing a variation on that in just a sec. So here's the Jade Lady weaves the shuttles. Cover, close, trap. Notice how the hands are like this. This is like the skull and bones method from the 52 hand blocks. That is the martial art that's right now developing in the United States penitentiary system and in inner city ghettos. Okay, it's all the way through Tai Chi, and there's one of the reasons for the S shape in the arm. So you're here, trap, hit. Now on the horizontal plane, it's like a Leah circle here. Twist step. Left hand is out on the center line, controlling the center line. Right hand is chambered. Step and thrust. Fine. Now adjusting my feet. Shift back and so different points of view. Here, here, now you can simply leave the hand there and move around it. I find that I'm automatically bringing my hand in here to reinforce the elbow if I'm doing a strike. So this is where you can get into some individual play that can be quite artistic. Jade Lady, cover. Horizontal plane, thrust. When I'm in this position, I've opened the fan. The middle vein or the middle rib of the fan is pointing towards the opponent. So when I'm in this position here, my fan is not like this. This fan right now is out of play. Here, it isn't. So you want to have that middle part of the fan directed towards the opponent, and this is your spacer. Maybe this is grabbing him. It's going to be hitting him in a moment. Okay. Thrust. Adjust right foot and left foot. Now, first of all, to check postures, and I mentioned this in the email sent to you, these are the two books I mentioned. This one here is the earlier book. This is the more recent book. This book was done 1990, whatever, and it's got the form photographed, posture by posture. This is more recent. It doesn't have the complete rainbow form, but it's got some other interesting material. I think that this one may have been designed as a textbook to go along with their teaching at York University in the kinesiology and sports medicine department. Okay, so Jill Heath is probably the best source for those books. I saw this one advertised online for $60. Seems a bit heavy for something like this. I'm hoping I get a better price from Jill. She hasn't gotten back to me yet. Gives you a chance to practice the postures photo by photo. And here's where there's an interesting indication of development on Master Helen's part, because when she taught us this movement, it was basically a horse stance, equal weight between the feet. Okay. But I recently, about 2 years ago, did a workshop with Jill, who is one of Master Helen's disciples. And what she was teaching was this. So more of a back stance. Okay, as opposed to this. So these are indicative of more recent developments. I do like the back stance method a bit more. However, this is another thing that you can do on your own depending upon what you'd like. So here, thrust, reinforce the elbow, adjust the feet, and like that. Here, cover, close the fan. Trap, strike. Horizontal, Leah, step, thrust. I intend to go further, and we do have time. So how is that coming along? Okay. Jill,
I'm just trying to formulate the question. In the last moves, because I'm getting used to having something in my hand, I'm trying to figure out sometimes when we finish a position where the elbow is relative to the fan. And when I saw you just now, it looked relaxed and out, just like a regular Tai Chi move. But sometimes I feel like to hold that fan, I feel like I'm lifting my elbow. Is that incorrect?
It depends upon whether the trapezius muscle is activating.
Mm.
Okay. Now, most of your experience, Jill, has been yang style.
Right.
When you get into older styles like Chen and like old yang, quite often the elbow will come up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in this case, I can really feel the pericardium open in the armpit. There's a sense of hollowness, but the trap is not activated. So this comes up. When I go up like this, the trap is not activated. Down, the trap is not activated. Through, I can have the fan low, I can have the fan high. When I'm coming through like this, when we are doing that circle walk, I'm raking the fan across at the level of the eyes, but my trap is not activated. CJ will remember one of the times we were down, I think it was at the Mensch Mill, and a friend of ours, Lee Sheely, was there with a lovely lady, Dorothy Tecklenburg, who was from Western Pennsylvania, I believe. And I was showing a form, and Lee, of course, is a Wu stylist, so his elbows are really tucked in and way, way down. And I was showing them an older form, and Dorothy said to Lee, well, how can that be correct? His elbows are up. And Lee said, yes, they're up, but they're down. And what he meant, of course, was that the traps were not engaged. So here the elbows are up, but they're down. And you have a sense of the collarbone being pressed down. So to be able to activate this without activating the upper back and the traps, that's something that you really need to work at. So the issue in terms of where the elbows are, whether they're right or wrong, has to do more with the trap activation. Hopefully the lack of trap activation. Does that answer the question, Jill?
It does, thank you.
Okay, and just a warning for everybody. Remember, when you're asking me a question, what with the autism, don't assume that I'm understanding the question properly. This is why I make a habit of saying, did this answer your question? I need to know, because quite often I'll be off on something I'm obsessing about, and I may not be picking up upon what you're actually after. All right? So, taking it a little bit further. Here's the thrust. Now here, see how the elbows are coming up, Jill? Boom. But the trap is not activated. So to quote my good friend Lee, the shoulder or the elbow is up, but it's down. Okay. So here, coming up. Now, what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to adjust my feet, and I'm going to step forward into a dually bu, an empty or a one-legged stance, maybe actually a subu, on my left leg. Now to do that, I pivot in the right toe, I pivot in the left heel, and I step through like that. Okay, so this is subu, empty stance. And the way I get into that, without torquing my knees, is I'm in this really, really wide stance. And you will notice that when I did this, my feet are both toed in. They're not quite parallel, but I'm not like this. You see a lot of modern forms where the person is pointing the front leg on the 90. It's appropriate in a few things, such as the yang style, but generally with the older forms particularly, you would have the leg in, which is what we're doing when we have the thing here before we step through into this. In other words, I don't want somebody to kick me and to connect with my femoral nerve or femoral artery on the inside of the thigh. If they're kicking, I want to be able to take it on the meat of my leg, where I'm less prone to injury. So this is why you're like this. But then to get out of this requires right, left, and step through. Okay? So here, right, pivoting in the heel, left, pivoting in the ball of the foot, step through. Now, why with my left foot do I pivot on the ball of the foot? The reason is to minimize the necessity for weight shift. If I pivot in the heel and then I pivot out like this, I'm very open here. And I've got a little bit more work to do to step through. I want to keep a very narrow front towards the opponent. So I'm here, pivot the toe, pivot in the heel, and you see how narrow this is now? And then I step through. And I can be doing other stuff in here like kicking as well. But if the foot is open like this, and I'm not as well chambered for a kick. I've got to move more to get the foot out. So everything here, in terms of my interpretation, is predicated with a lot of these on having a narrow stance. Heel or toe, heel, step through. Now, when I step through, this fan has moved to here. Now, Master Helen, she rotates it so it gets into this position here. I don't have the wrist flexibility for that. The other thing too is if you have the fan like this and somebody's delivering a quick kick to your kidneys, you can get it back like that and give yourself a little bit of shielding in terms of the kidneys. When you're doing the Chen fan form, you know, you're coming out, and once again, you've got the fan there to protect the kidney area, like that. So, but she does it with a much more of a rotation. I'm showing you all of these options because this form is designed as an art form as well as having a martial integrity to it. And if you've got the wrist flexibility and you want to give it some extra flash, you could be doing this. But for me, it's going to be there. Now, when I'm stepping through, here is this. Okay, so I'm not going to move the left hand. That's another set of issues. So here, like that. Now the left hand, two different ways of moving it. You're sort of circling it and you're stepping into it. So from here, when you're stepping through, you could have the fan coming up like that and then sinking down. Or you could have the fan sinking down and coming up and striking out. Now I feel inside here in my gut that this works for me. Master Helen, her method is to come in here and then go out. This is also what Sophie does, who is a senior member of this group. She comes in and then you have pressing out. I'm tending to come in here where I feel action here and go out like that. Now, it's kind of hard for me to articulate this movement, both verbally as well as physically. So let me demonstrate what I'm doing, but remember that you have the option of the fan coming in here. Okay, and that's something that I do in empty hand Chen forms. So I'm here. Like that. When I'm in this position, you sit and you drop the butt. So you should be really well rooted when you're in this stance. The head is suspended, shoulders down, torso is upright. The foot here is open sufficiently. You're not getting any kind of a twist or a torque on that knee. So whether it's Storkel's wings or whatever you're going to do, okay, the butt is dropped. If I'm doing this, the butt is dropped. When you're in a one-legged stance, drop the butt or you have no root. Thrust, back stance, shifting forward. And you'll notice that quite often I'm not adjusting the rear foot when I do the step forward. I'm just stepping right through with the front foot. That's because I'm an instructor and I'm lazy, and instructors can get away with being lazy. But as students, you have to do it the right way. And you're muted, so I can't hear anything you're saying. Like that. This is protecting this area. If you think about this zone as your flank, okay, what you're doing is you're protecting the flank. So let's take the form from the top, going through to that point. And if for any part of the movement you want me to turn around so you can see my hands, please ask. But right now I'm doing it the way that you would be doing it if you were following me in class. So, salute. Put out the left foot, center the weight. With the radius bonus, up, sit, spiral. Open the foot. Follow step. Trap, step out. Chop, shift back. Protect the head, protect the knee. Adjust the feet. 1. Block up, block down. 2. 3. Attack the eyes. 4. 5. Close the fan over your head. Leah circle and come up. And boom. Whoa. Up. Cover. Close. Trap. Horizontal Leah. Step. Thrust. Adjust the feet. Back stance. Step forward. And just checking the nomenclature on that. Immortal points the way. Any questions to that point?
Yes, I have a question.
CJ.
Now I got to remember where it was when we were doing kind of 2 circles. The question is, when we do those 2 circles, are we shifting our weight, or are we staying in the same weight when we do the?
I think you're talking about right after the Jade Lady weaves the shuttles.
Yes.
I would suspect. And let me do it rather than give you a quick answer, because if I give you a quick answer, I'm sure to get it wrong. All right. So Jade Lady works the shuttles. Cover. Shift the weight. Close. Heel. Now, a trick here is that the weight doesn't shift on the second circle. When you're doing this, this is almost empty. Got maybe 10%, 5%. So I've done this. Weight shift. Heel. no weight shift, weight shift. So you notice that you're shifting the weight here onto a loaded leg, and you're loading the leg while you shift the weight. So the rotation has to be from the hip where you're going to torque the knee. Needless to say, this is something that you would never ever see in Yang style. Okay, however, you do see it in other forms. So here, cover. Is that okay, CJ?
Yes, thank you.
Now, the next set of moves is the move I taught you a little while back. So we're cooking with gas this morning for sure. So here's the thrust. Open the right foot, close the left. Stepping through to here. Once again. Here, 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 here. Now, there are two ways of getting into grass bird's tail. I'm going to teach you the one that I think is simplest. So you're here, step, right, cross step behind, left, turn, pivoting on your feet to here. Pivoting on your feet translates into Chinese as messing around a little bit. So I'm here, step, cross step behind, put down the heel, pivot to here. All righty. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's basically what you did when you were doing that circle walk with the fan moving on this plane. Now, I said there were two different ways of doing it. The other way is like this. And then stepping out. Okay, so simply pivoting onto that leg, and that requires a bit of setup. I'll look at that next week. So here we are, and we're going to walk it. 1, 2, 3, turning to here. Then up and back, forward and back, raising the front toe and forward. And you can see that there's a bit of a lean on this. Now changing the angles. So you can see a different point of view. Actually, I should go here. Here, cover. First circle. Second circle. Thrust. Thrust. Cover and twist up. And do it again. So you do this twice. Now, I know. Here, here. Close the fan. Trap, chop. Here, here. Now I'm going to shift back because this is a form that takes room. Stepping through. 1, 2, 3, pivoting in your feet. And then grass bird sail up and back. And forward and back. and forward. Left twist step and cover. Pigeon-toed, cross step, and turn again into the sandwich position. And then again, up and back, forward and back, and forward.
You're not actually expecting us to learn all that right now, are you?
I remember with the first cannon fist I had with Zhou Tsunghua back in 1995. We did nothing but these horrendously painful standing qigongs for the first 2 days. So that meant that by the end of the second day, or actually by noon hour in the second day, the muscle boys from the city, all the kung fu guys, they left and they didn't come back. Okay. And then on the Wednesday, he taught us the entire cannon fist in the morning, and he expected us to start demonstrating it in the afternoon. So maybe I'm gradually becoming more and more Chinese. Let's go back. I don't expect that. We can play with this a long time. We're not in a hurry. Here, here, close, crap, top, here, thrust, open, and maybe we should leave it at that for this week. Let's do it again once more. Okay, off the top. Salute. There are your two fishes in your spirals. Here's the trapping clockwise circle. Step out. First circle, chop. Second circle, perhaps the elbow, but protect the head and the knee. Adjust the feet, step through. Now walking in a circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Close the fan over your head. 6, and up. And close, chop. Horizontal into a follow step, thrust. Back stance, stepping through, Immortal points the way. Again. Salute. Up. Circle. Step out. First circle. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And up. And up. Cover. Close. Okay, how's that, guys?
Steve,
Yes, Rob.
John, the angle before you come around and do the chop with fist, you close the fan before that. Is that out in front of you?
Yes. Okay. And it doesn't have to be. Helen doesn't do it out in front of her. Okay. She does it more on an angular or a lateral direction. What I'm doing is I'm doing 2 snaps with the fan towards the opponent's face. Okay. Whereas what Helen is doing, she's here, she's closing, and then she's simply closing the fan like this before going out. Okay, so that's another way of doing it, and it's perfectly fine. In other words, you could have this, you could have this, got a punch coming in, and then do your attack. So you could have it going like this, or you could have it going, you know, more forward. So here it is going forward. And again. Or I could have it like this, which is what Helen does.
Steve, you're muted. Steve, you got muted somehow.
Alrighty, okay. So Rob, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
CJ, does that answer your question about the 2 circles? Okay. Now that,
Yes,
you know,
it does, but I actually have a follow-up.
Sure.
In the beginning, when there's these 2, you know, we're going there and then we're doing this, is there a shift of weight in that beginning 2 circles as well?
Yes, yes.
That one has a shift. Okay.
And it's a little bit deceptive because of the fact that the second circle at the beginning, CJ, is I take it just past the center, and then I move down into the center, into the Tai-yin point again. Okay, and I would, like all of the stuff I was teaching, I often in lessons, I teach something and then it may not appear to be connect up to what we're doing after. But you see, that business about the Tai-yin point and moving in and out of the Tai-yin and the Tai-yang, that applies to everything we're doing here.
Okay, thanks.
So everything we're doing is using that material that I introduced at the beginning, although I may not have stitched it up. And when you're sinking down there, you're sinking into the Tai-yin. When you move sinking down into a back stance, it's a back Tai-yin, but it should feel really comfortable. Sam Mazich calls it, when you're pushing hands, the clunk position. You're moving in and out, and then you go clunk. And it's just where everything is comfortable. I think of it as being going home. You know, when you're moving into the Tai-yin, you're going home. And you can move out of it in any direction at that point. So the Tai-yin is that moment of being home. Alrighty? Does that answer that okay?
Yes, it does.
So,
thank you very much.
Jill.
I have a question about directionality, just to confirm what I think I saw in our latest move with the 2 grassbird's tails.
Yes.
Coming in to prepare for the first one, it's a 3/4 turn so that you are facing on essentially the square, the short axis, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then when you move into the grassbird's tail, is it oblique or is it on the 45 to the other square?
Big discussion
Okay.
over this in the part of Master Helen's students, because at some point or other she changed it.
Okay.
Okay. I think that initially, way back when, She was doing it on the oblique. And I think she shifted it onto the 90. Now, the other thing too is that moment where you're standing like this, holding the sandwich before you step out. That's a teaching convention too. That gets you set up as a student so you can move out of it. But in performance, you blow through that so quickly. Okay, if you have a look at the email I sent that had the 2 video links, and you look at her in performance, where she's doing something that's sort of loosely based upon the rainbow fan, but is quite different, where she's kind of freestyling it. And you can see that she never is actually stopping in that position. She's just turning and blowing through it. So the position is a chance as a student for you to get set up before you go into that suite of movements. Okay? Now, I think what I'd like to do now, we don't have to go right through to 11, but if you guys are interested, I think Judy is headed out. She's been nursing a sore arm. Rob, you know through part 2, don't you? Okay.
More or less, yeah.
So anyhow, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go from the beginning. Oh, I'm sorry, Rob, you have a question?
No, you were asking if I knew to the end of part 2, and
Yeah.
I do more or less,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I think what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to go through all the way through part 2, which is what I've been planning on doing initially. What I will do now is I will go all the way through part 1, because we've almost finished it at this point. So if you guys want to sort of surf on what we're doing, follow along. I once was a student of one of the old Tibetan lamas, and he told us that he envisioned the minds of his students as being these fields covered with manure, and he was throwing out seeds in hope that in the springtime something beautiful would come up. So under the understanding that I look upon your minds as being covered in shit, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go through the entire first part and plant some seeds that'll make the next couple of classes easier. And Karen is saying, Stephen, well, all right. Now, as you will understand from having seen the document, the form for teaching as a teaching convention, and this is coming from Helen, not from me, is divided into 4 sections. And what we're doing now is we're going right through number 1. Rob and Judy and a couple of the others have both 1 and 2. Okay, but we're just going to go through part 1 right now. And I'm going to have to, this is a long form. It takes quite a bit of space on that long axis. So I'm going to have to turn around, I'm going to have to readjust my space occasionally as we go through this. So, salute. And step out. Commencement. White crane. I'm sorry, I went into the Chen style there. Back off, back to the beginning. That's where you would open the fan if you're doing the Chen form. And you close it immediately. So let's keep my composure and do that again. Commencement. White crane. Offer the incense to the sky. Jade Lady weaves the shuttles. Step up, deflect, parry, punch. Immortal points the way. Step right, cross step left, turn, heel down, pivot, come around, grasp sparrow's tail, up and back, left hand palm up, forward and back, raising the left toe, forward, cover and twist step, circle step, cross step, and center again. And then again, up, back, forward, back, forward. Open the right foot, close the left foot, close the fan. To the left, butt attack. To the right, trap. Snake creeps down. Adjust in the right foot, adjust the left foot, step through golden cockerel. And the fan is held horizontally like this. Look at the fan, turning it sideways. Step out like that. That's the end of part one. So once again, just actually, well, from the beginning again. I don't want to get into teaching too much new material. Salute. With the radius, sink spiraling into the right hip and come across. Sink spiraling into the left hip. Shift. Trapping circle. Here's the chop. Back. Protect the head. Protect the knee. And white crane flashing wings. Then 1 right. 2, 3, 4, 5. Closing the fan and up. Butt strike. Open the fan. Shovel up into the neck. Close. Close the fan. Chop. And forward. Immortal Sage Points the Way. 1, 2, pivot, 3, and grasp sparrow's tail, up and back, forward and back, raising the toe, forward, twist step and cover. 1, 2, and up and back, forward and back, and forward. Open to the right, close the left. 1, 2, down. Adjust the feet, circle. Look at the fan. There. And Rob, you'll see that there are a couple of slightly new details in for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, it's this is a form that I hadn't done for years, and I had to recover it about 3 years ago, and that was when I started teaching Rob and some of the others. So this is a form that had gone quite dead, and the way that I recovered it was by, instead of imitating Master Helen quite so slavishly, I start putting in stuff that made sense to me based upon what I knew of my own Kung Fu. So there are these little differences now between what she does and what I do. Okay, so are there any questions in there?
So could we say this is not really Helen Wu's form? This is Steve Higgins' form?
Well, remember, originally it wasn't Helen Wu's form either.
Ah,
It was Madame Wang's.
ah,
Okay, so I would imagine that if you compared Madame Wang and Helen and her sister Grace, who I think lives down in Texas, I would imagine that you'd find little differences in interpretation with all of them. I think that the idea of transmission from one generation to the next being sort of a cookie cutter thing, no, that's not real Kung Fu. Kung Fu has to involve an element of your soul. It has to involve some real creativity. It has to involve something that is you. So you can learn it in a very, strict way, but eventually you're going to have to wind up doing something that's different from me, from whoever you learn it from. It's going to wind up being reflective of your personality and everything else. Academically, in terms of doing this particular form, I would regard Sophie as being much better than me. Okay, because she really bears it down. She's a dental hygienist in terms of her profession. So she's got a real eye for detail in terms of precisely how everything goes. So if she was in this group and if I had a question, I'd be saying, Sophie, how the hell do I do this? And she would have the answer every time. Now, whether I do it that way, that's another thing altogether. Okay, but so it's the flying rainbow single Tai Chi Fan for sure, but I think you're going to see all kinds of different ways of doing it. One of Master Helen's students, George Picard, has got a club over in, I think it's St. Catharines. And it's very interesting when you watch him because his form has got a real Shaolin Kung Fu feeling when he does the Tai Chi Fan. At the same time, there are people that can get away from it. A number of you guys have met Sifu Malcolm Macquarie. He's just a lovely guy. And he demonstrated at the last event we had for Chinese New Year's, he had demonstrated the Cheng Man Ching form. And so Malcolm was for a long time, couple of decades, he was a Shaolin master. And then he started doing Tai Chi and he really got into Tai Chi. But even though he's so relaxed and he's really internalized the Tai Chi, there's something about Malcolm that is really combative. And Randall, who's our big Kempo guy, he said, no, he said, I never realized that the Cheng Man Ching form was such a combative form until I saw Malcolm do it. And Malcolm wasn't trying to bring that out, but it was there. That was part of it. You've got people in this club who've been working with Aikido, and I think that they will have a feeling for circles and for throwing, a lot of throwing, particularly in the Yang 108. So there's a lot of room for personal expression. Anyhow, I think that's enough for today. We've had a pretty good session. There's a lot there to work on. And as you can see, I see no reason why we shouldn't finish the first section in 2 weeks' time when we get together again. So go over what we have. The other thing too is when you come to class, if you have questions, write them down if you have questions, and that's fine. Look, I don't see anything here at this point. I'm going to have to go back to the list of instructions and have a look, but read it. This last week, for example, I got a couple of suggestions from CJ where I'd made mistakes in my notation in terms of right foot and left foot and stuff like that. And so CJ picked up on them and they are added back into the instructions that I'll be sending out shortly. But let me know what questions you have and let me know what corrections there are. I should point out also that this whole project of redoing those written instructions comes from Jill. What she was picking up on was that there was a lot of my stuff that didn't really feel appropriate. Like I was putting in references to fencing terms because of my sword work, and that didn't make sense to anybody who didn't have fencing. So anyhow, is that okay for this week? All right. And so feet together and salute. Take care, everybody. Be healthy, be safe.